Today we are going to learn how to make colorful cauliflower curry, which looks like this. Look how delicious that looks. It's my dinner tonight. In this video, we are also going to learn how to mince garlic and review chopping an onion. We're going to learn how to deal with a bell pepper, cut up a cauliflower into florets, and we're also going to learn how to prepare parsley and green onions for usage in a recipe. And it all comes together in this fantabulous dinner recipe that you can make with the recipe that I have posted. Enjoy. For this recipe, we are going to review chopping garlic and onions. We're also going to learn how to chop up a pepper, some cauliflower, green onions, and parsley. That leafy vegetable that comes in Italian or curly. Let's get started. Here we have a head of garlic, if you remember from a previous video, and we have cloves of garlic. For this particular recipe, we need 3 cloves, 1, 2, 3 of garlic, not 3 heads of garlic. So make sure that you don't use the heads in place of garlic cloves. So let me show you a review. First thing that you're gonna do is bash those cloves of garlic up like that. And the peel will come off very easily, just like that. Discard your peels because obviously you don't want to eat those. Grab the peel off of this one too. Get rid of all your little garlic papers. And there we go. So now we have peeled cloves of garlic. I like to cut the very ends off. Those really are kind of tough. I don't really want to eat those. So I like to cut those ends off. And just like we did during the demonstration is we are going to mince these cloves of garlic. So that means that we're gonna slice them up first. I like to get through all the slicing. And then I'm going to be bringing them all back together. Now, whenever you're chopping, make sure that the tip of your chef's knife is connected to your cutting board at all times. That allows you to get a nice rocking motion moving along. Come back through there and chop those like that again, just like that. So when we mince, you want to get as fine as you possibly can, just like that. And if you notice, these pieces are about almost like the size of an end of a pen. So we want those to be nice and small. Nobody wants to, and you can clean off the back of your knife there, nobody wants to bite into a chunk of garlic. No good there. So this is what your minced garlic is going to look like. See that there? We're gonna stick that into our bowl for later usage in our recipe. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is a medium-sized onion. Let's review how to do that very quickly. We're gonna cut off the end, each end actually, of our onions. Cut that baby in half. Peel off the outside so that gives you a nice clean end to chop. Same thing with the other half, because in this particular recipe, we need a large onion. I would say this one is kind of like almost like a medium large onion kind of thing here. So we have this end of half of an onion, and we're gonna make little cuts almost the whole way through, but not quite the whole way through. So take a look. This is where I'm stopping here. So if you notice, I don't go the whole way through. It's because we're gonna cut a horizontal cut through. And then this is all gonna be connected over here. So when we go ahead and chop through that, it's gonna cut all those little onion pieces into tiny, little, teeny, even-sized chopped onion pieces. So as you can see, they're all evenly cut up. And let me tell you, if your eyes start watering like mine are right now, please take a step away from the onion, allow your eyes to kind of stop watering, and then get back into cutting, because you don't want to cut your finger because you can't see what you're cutting. Just to show you, for this half of the onion, this is about what the chopped size looks like. So you can see there, it's about the size of the end of my fingernail. It's about that size right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop the other half of this onion, and then we will get into our pepper. Let's take a look at our pepper. So this pepper is longer than a normal pepper would be, but that's okay. It's one of these ones that I bought. It was like a 3-pack. So the first thing you're gonna do with the pepper is cut off the end And then for these longer peppers, I like to cut these in half to be about the size of a normal pepper. You want to cut those in half again. And then you're going to have seeds in the middle that you want to take out. Just like that. Take out that ribbing. And this is the same for hot peppers as well, although if you choose to use hot peppers, I would recommend wearing gloves because the capsaicin in the hot peppers and the seeds can get into your fingers and you can burn your mouth or burn your eyes, things like that. So what you're going to do is I like to cut my peppers into a julienne strip. If you notice these little strips here, about the same size. And I'm going to cut these into strips and then I'm going to bring these back together and I'm going to chop those in half, okay? Same thing with these ones. Cut your strips up and then give those a cut in half. I will add these to my bowl of vegetables that I need to add to my skillet, and then I'll show you the cauliflower. Now time for our cauliflower head. So this is about a small head. The recipe calls for a large head, so I'm probably going to end up using all of this. To show you with the cauliflower, I'm going to go ahead and cut the florets off of the main core, just as you see here. And I'm going to cut each of these individual florets. You want to get rid of all of your little pieces of leaf and things like that. I'm going to cut this into small little pieces that are about the size of whatever protein you're gonna add to your curry. So I'm going to be doing some sausage and some chickpeas, and I think this is going to be a nice, good size. When you do things like a floret, you want it to look roughly about the size that you would dip into ranch to eat. So you want everything to, again, be the same size. I'm going to go ahead and cut up the remainder of this cauliflower. Again, just kind of pulling away some of those florets like that, pushing off to the side so you have an open space on your board. Just like that. So kind of flick them off with your knife, just like that, into nice even sizes. Recipe started. I actually cooked my sausage in advance. So that is my pre-cooked protein. And I'm also going to use these chickpeas that I drained and rinsed in my colander here. We'll get to using those later. But the first thing I want to do is add my 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Now, the nice thing about cooking is you can kind of eyeball, so you don't necessarily have to get out your measuring spoon and measure 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I usually do 1 turn of the pan, or what looks to be my eyeballed version of 1 tablespoon. We are gonna add here our garlic, our onion, and our peppers to our pan here, okay? And then we're gonna go over and grab our cauliflower and add that in there as well. I have to, hold on 1 second. I saved some of my peppers for my boys who do not like cooked vegetables. So I want to peppers and cauliflower, get those out of there. So once you get all those added, you can go ahead and coat all of your vegetables in that olive oil. And those are going to saute for about 5 minutes until your cauliflower is nice and soft. While our vegetables saute, we're going to chop up our green onions and our parsley, which we are going to be using at the end of your recipe. So don't forget to give your vegetables back there a stir. As you're prepping other things, sometimes you can tend to forget about those, so I'll do that real quick right now. Toss them around so they don't get burnt. And then, while things cook on the stove behind me, you can be getting other things chopped up. So, with the green onions, what I like to do first is definitely give them a rinse, which I already did. And then any kind of like outside leaves that are wilting, you want to pull those off. They really don't add to the texture. If you have any like slimy little pieces or pieces that are wilted, you want to get those off. I just like the nice bright insides of those green onions, just like that, okay? You're going to bring your green onions together. And I like to cut off just a little bit of the hairy end. As you see that, you really don't want to eat that. And then I turn it around and I'm going to cut off just the top. So with green onions, as you can see here, let me tilt this so you guys can see a little bit better. You want to bring all of your green onions together. And again, keep the tip of your knife connected to your board and do that in a nice chopping motion. And so you get nice even pieces with all of your green onions, moving your fingers back away from the knife as your knife creeps closer and closer towards your fingers, okay? Once you get everything nice and chopped up once, you can go through and give a nice rough chop to everything like you see here. Just like that. Okay, so our 3 green onions we're going to use at the end of our recipe. I'll put those in a bowl there so that I can get my parsley chopped up. So you can use curly parsley or Italian parsley. I have curly parsley here that you can use. All you do is rip off a nice chunk off of your head and make sure you give it a rinse because parsley can have some sand and dirt in it. And what you want to do is pull off all of those little leaves of parsley. I personally do not like these stems of parsley. They're kind of bitter, kind of an off-putting texture. So when you're using this in a cooked dish, I like to get all of those leaves off, just like you see here. This is also the same as cilantro. So if you were using cilantro in your dish, you would definitely want to get all of those leaves pulled off. And we need for this particular recipe about 2 tablespoons of roughly chopped parsley. And again, this is going to go in at the end of our recipe. But we are going to get that ready while our vegetables cook behind us. All right, now that I've gotten all my leaves chopped up, I'm going to go through and give those a nice rough chop. Again, pay attention to what's in front of you. Don't get distracted by the TV or your phone or somebody at your house. Make sure that when you're doing chopping, cutting up anything with a knife, that you're paying attention. And that is basically what you want to see for a chopped amount of parsley. And that is roughly 2 tablespoons. Might be about 3, but that's okay. When you're cooking, you can add a little bit more. You can take some away. Whenever we talk about things like sauces in cooking are where you want to definitely be precise because sauces depend on certain ratios. But when you're putting things together like a saute of some kind, you can go ahead and add or delete things as you so choose. I'm going to show you how to make a quick sauce here in a couple minutes. Vegetables are getting pretty soft here. I'm going to go ahead and add my sausage. I have about 8 ounces of sausage there. And then I'm also going to add 1 15-ounce can of drained and rinsed chickpeas. I'm going to go ahead and get that stirred. We're not cooking these. They are already pre-cooked. But our goal is to get all of this nice and heated through before we add our sauce into this saute. It smells so good. Doesn't it look so good? I know some of you might be thinking, Mrs. K, I don't like cauliflower. I don't like those chickpeas. Well, you know what? You just got to give things a try. And the nice thing about this saute is that if you don't like these chickpeas, you could replace it with something else. You could replace them with Great Northern beans, or you could replace the cauliflower with broccoli. You can always change up cooked dishes to meet your specific needs or tastes. And I'm going to let that heat through for about another minute while we make our sauce. Now it's time for our sauce. So in this liquid measuring cup is actually going to second as my mixing bowl for my sauce. So I measured out in the liquid measuring cup a 1/2 cup of chicken stock or chicken broth. And then I added to that a 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt and a 1/4 cup of light sour cream. You can use all sour cream or all Greek yogurt if you want to, just makes it really creamy. And I measured that out with a dry measuring cup and plopped it right into here because that's going to be my mixing bowl. We are going to add to this 1 teaspoon of paprika, which is going to give it a nice smoky flavor. And I have this cool little measuring spoon here that allows me to change the amounts. It was from Pampered Chef, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and put in 1 teaspoon of paprika. You can use smoked paprika or Hungarian paprika. Whatever you have on hand is fine. And then we are going to use curry powder. You don't need to use the organic version, but curry powder is actually a mix of different spices used in a lot of Hungarian dishes, Turkish dishes, some Middle Eastern dishes, Indian dishes. It's really great. If you've seen like curry noodle bowls, but there's like fenugreek and coriander, ground mustard seed, turmeric in there. It gives it a nice, pretty yellow color. So we are going to add that to our sauce, and I'm making this sauce as my other ingredients mix behind me. And if I had planned ahead, I would have planned to have the garbage bowl beside me, but I guess I'll just clean this up later. This one is actually a little bit too big to dip into the, give me 1 second here, to the bowl or into the spice container. So I'm just kind of tapping it out here. So 2 teaspoons of our curry powder. And then I'm gonna take my little mini whisk, which I love so much, and I'm gonna mix that together. We're gonna be adding this sauce ingredient to our curry, and that's gonna make essentially our curry sauce. Now, if you didn't have curry on hand, you could use some different mixtures of things that are in curry. Sometimes when you go to Google, you can type in substitutions and it'll give you some ideas for substituting curry. That's what I like to do, or, you know, if I can't find a particular thing. So that is the liquid for our sauce. All right, so to our sauteed meat and vegetables, we are going to sprinkle on a tablespoon of flour. What the flour is gonna do, it's gonna allow our sauce to thicken so that you have a nice thick sauce that covers all of your vegetables. We're gonna let that flour cook out for about 30 seconds or so. You wanna make sure that it gets all combined with everything and distributes nice and evenly. And then once that cooks for about 30 seconds or so, you can go ahead and you can pour your sauce on. And this is a sauce that you don't want to boil really hard since it has dairy in it. Sometimes it can kind of separate and curdle. So you really just want to heat your sauce through and give it a chance to create a nice thick coating on all of your vegetables and meat. When our sauce is nice and thick, it is time to add in our parsley and chopped green onions. You do this at the end of a dish, green onions and fresh herbs, because they hold their flavor and their color when you add them at the end of a dish. And really at this point, we're just trying to heat that through and our dish is done. Look how good that looks. An awesome dinner full of different fruit or different vegetables and 2 different proteins. You can mix and match as you want to. The recipe is attached and shown for you to use, and I hope you give it a try.